All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the podcast. Today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I usually have my World of Art and Magic podcast, but today I'm going to be highlighting an indie comic artist. I'm going to be doing like a series of these where I'm taking indie comic artists and indie comic writers, and I'm going to be bringing them onto my YouTube page and just showing some of the work it is that these guys are doing and helping promote them and chatting about their inspiration. Right now, I have Brent Turner with me. Brent, can you give us an introduction?
Yeah, so I'm Brent Turner, pen name B.A. Turner. I am a prose novelist, and I am now diving into the comic world as well. So I have a mini comic that is just being finished up right now for my campaign, and long term, I'm hoping to provide readers with full novels as well as full comic issues, since both novels and comics have been a big inspiration to me, and I'm passionate for both. So.
Yeah, man. We got your stuff pulled up here, and immediately, like, there's a couple of different things that I see as inspiration, like the old '90s style for sure, like we talked about before we started the podcast.
Mhm.
But would you say that like Legacy of Kain, was that any kind of an influence? Like, was there any other games? And I mean, like, Cthulhu looks like an influence as well. Spawn.
It's funny. Not a lot of influence from games or things such as Spawn. I initially got into comics via the Smallville TV series, ironically, because
Okay.
I grew up on a farm. There were no comic book shops. I had never even seen a comic book as a kid.
hmm
Um, but when I got exposed to that show, that's where I really got interested in obviously Superman, Green Arrow, and specifically Deathstroke. And then I started collecting Deathstroke comics and anything Marv Wolfman, so Teen Titans, and that grew into an interest for like Lobo and Doctor Fate. And for me, the main kind of inspiration was just the lore behind gargoyles in general, the biblical lore and the supernatural lore. And I had gotten a chess piece of a gargoyle in my early 20s and just had a real vivid dream of like this gargoyle just standing atop of a cathedral overlooking a city. And I sat on the idea for years, but as I got more into, comics such as Deathstroke and a mixture and well, kind of the combination of that. And at that time, that's when all the comic book movies were huge, right? Just Marvel
hmm
and DC were just pumping everything out.
hmm
And that was when Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman came out, and the first Suicide Squad, which had more of that kind of dark, gritty, soulful style of cinematography. And those films were what really, really inspired me to actually sit down and start writing the novels. And, like I kind of mentioned, before we started here, was just the color schemes that they went with for those films,
hmm
and the tone. Just I really wanted to emulate that visually in a comic and also in the covers for my novels. So it was really just a mixture of those films and then just the being really interested in like Deathstroke and Batman. So
So what is the biblical and what is the biblical symbolism of the gargoyle? What does it represent?
a lot of people, on the Catholic side of things, believe that they put the gargoyle statues or grotesques on the old Gothic cathedrals as a way to keep out evil spirits, to have a symbol or a creature that's so intimidating and fearful looking that it could even strike fear into like a demon or an evil spirit. So kind of using fear as a weapon. And so I kind of I took that idea and just ran with it, right? Having a true hero that looks evil to the extent
hmm
that it could even strike fear into the evilest of men, or creatures. And so that's kind of the main kind of focus of the story. And I just loved that kind of symbolism of why they might have put those on top of churches. And it makes sense, because why else would such a sacred building that is built around, angelic, I guess, premises, have such a grotesque or evil looking creature, right? It
Mm-hmm.
makes sense that they would only do that to keep out evil. So kind of maybe put the fear in men that may want to come into the building and do harm or such. So that's kind of the religious side of things where I drew some inspiration, and then I tied that into to supernatural lore as well, for from a gargoyle perspective.
So you started off writing. You have a novel
Mhm.
that comes along with this is a part of this mythos. So you wrote a novel,
Mhm.
and then what was the process of like trying to get somebody together in order to put this comic together?
Yeah, so I started writing it as one book about 7 years ago, and it ended up being like 600 pages in like standard book format. And so I ended up divvying it up into two novels. And then I had initially had a piece of cover art for it a couple years ago, but it just didn't, you know, to me, it just didn't feel like the right fit for the
Mm-hmm.
character and the tone. And, I opened up a Twitter account, I don't know, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I just started coming across artists, right? And
Mm-hmm.
as I found one artist, I would see more people posting art, and I eventually came across Corey and Clayton Barton's Kozar comic, and the art in that just it fit that color tone, the just intensity that I was looking for monsters and for vigilantes,
Mm-hmm.
and I reached out to Corey, and he agreed to do just a wraparound cover for the first novel, and he just knocked it out of the park.
Mm-hmm.
Just the image I had for the character in my mind um, didn't even do justice to what he ended up creating. It was so amazing that
Mm-hmm.
one right there.
Oh, okay.
And after that, I was like, I gotta bring more characters to life. I gotta bring the antagonists to life. And once I did the second wraparound cover for the second book, I still was just hooked. I'm like, okay, I want to do a full comic issue, but it's obviously a huge investment. I don't have much of a following, so I'm going to do something new that's kind of in between, a full
Mm-hmm.
comic issue and I guess a novel. And so the idea was to work with Corey to do a mini comic, which would be like supplemental
Mm-hmm.
visualization for the novels. So introduce every single major and supporting character, detailing some of the major scenes from the novels, and then introduce these characters with the key characteristics, abilities, kill counts, fun things like that you would kind of find on a trading card, but put
Mm-hmm.
it in comic book format with panelization, two-page spreads, etc. So that's kind of what got me to this point, because I wanted to have the art, but I wanted to have the prose, and I want to attract comic fans, because comic fans are more likely to be interested in vigilantes, supernatural creatures like this. So I
Mm-hmm.
really wanted to try to kind of convince comic book readers to give novels a chance, but also provide them with the art that they normally desire, and then for novel readers, give them that missing piece of the visualization, so that as they're reading, they can ingrain the imagery in their mind and play out the scenes like a film, so
Mm-hmm.
they're not distracted and trying to remember how characters look like and such. So that's kind of how it all came together.
So, like, what was the process of like trying to promote this? Because I know that one of the biggest issues, I think that one of the biggest issues anybody that does anything creative is like getting eyes on this stuff. But it looks like
Yeah.
you've done a pretty good job with like getting people to back your book. I mean,
Mhm.
your original goal was 4,309, and now you're at 5,220. That's pretty damn cool, man.
Mhm.
Like,
Thank you.
congrats on that. You got 76 people backing you. So,
Yep.
was it mostly just like going on to people's podcasts and like and doing kind of like a cross promotional thing? Was it Twitter? What was it?
So I kind of followed the formula that a lot of the folks in CG do, which is, hooking up with people on Twitter, just finding people with similar interests, similar, passions for art or comics, and then get involved in their live streams via the live stream chat. So just watching the live streams, popping in, introducing yourself, just interacting with the chat so that people will recognize your name. And then so I did that for several months, and gained some followers from that, some good connections, like Joe that you had on recently,
Yeah.
who kind of gave me a lot of good feedback and insight into the process of creating a comic and art. And then my main driver was just getting a killer piece of art to attract people to my Twitter. So that initial wraparound cover was kind of my main marketing tool to just
Mm-hmm.
introduce myself, like, hey, I'm really into comics. I got these novels. I'm going to have more of this art coming. And, I started, with, essentially no followers, and it just snowballed.
Mm-hmm.
The more people saw his art, and they would follow me because they love his art or because they were interested in these characters. And then at the same time, just kept, watching these live streams, interacting, and I really just busted my ass on Twitter, just really trying to connect with folks and, find other people that were into urban fantasy novels and comics. And I really just did that grind for like a year and a half, and then did the sign up page for my Indiegogo. And a lot of people will do the sign up page like a month before they go live, which
Yeah.
doesn't give you a lot of time to get signups. And so I did it like 5 months in advance, and I
Oh wow.
promoted it as if it was an active campaign, and got around 230 signups, which isn't bad for a first campaign. And then once the campaign was live, just joining those live streams, being interviewed, doing as many as you can. And I think I got about 40% of my backers, because between Indiegogo and Fund My Comic, I'm at around 100 backers, and about 40% came from the interviews, and the other 60% came from just grinding on Twitter. Really, I didn't
So
have any luck on Facebook or Reddit, but Twitter is a really good place to find comic book backers so far.
so what is the difference between Fund My Comic and like a traditional Kickstarter, like or a traditional Indiegogo?
So the setup is pretty much the same. The main difference is Fund My Comic charges a lower platform fee percentage, so
Okay.
the creators get to keep a little bit more money. It has a little bit more of a shopping cart style. If you want like multiple perks or tiers, and they work with Stripe, so you get your payouts like every week or every 2 weeks. You don't have to wait till the very, very end
Mm-hmm.
to get your money. So for me, I did the novels in advance. I did like 75% of the mini comic in advance. So I had already just invested my own money. But for folks that maybe do 10% of the book and then do the funding, right? Getting that money immediately can help you continue to pay your artists so you can make progress as your campaign is live. Whereas Indiegogo, Kickstarter, you got to wait till the very end. You got to wait 2.5 months to get that funding to, to actually keep paying your artists and such. So there are some major advantages, but it's brand new, so it's still gaining some traction. But I'm really happy that I went on both platforms at the same time, because there are people that just do not want to back campaigns on Kickstarter, and there's people that do not want to back campaigns on Indiegogo because of people being shadow banned or whatnot on those. So I got about 25% of my backing on Fund My Comic. So it doesn't hurt to do both. And maybe there was a little bit of organic traffic on there. Never hurts to get some extra eyes potentially on it. So
So when you say that like you were grinding on Twitter,
Mhm.
you mean like you're reaching out to people individually and just being like, "Hey, come and check out my little teaser or and sign up if you
No,
want," or
no, I didn't do that. It was really just using hashtags that were relevant, finding people posting about like gargoyles and stuff like that, and just being like, "Oh, hey," in the replies, like, check out my project. You might like it if you're a fan of gargoyles or
Mhm,
Lovecraft, and just retweeting other. I really tried to, before my campaign and even during, I really try to promote other people as much as I can,
mhm,
to try to earn their trust and just to show the community, like, because there are folks that come in and they just want to benefit from the community, but they're
mhm,
not doing anything to help other people. So
mhm,
for a year, I was just constantly retweeting people's projects, promoting their stuff,
mhm.
and that helped because then those folks would be more likely to share your project when you went live.
Yep.
So trying to help those folks came back and helped me because they ended up retweeting my work, and some of those folks were pretty big artists with a lot of followers, and so it was just that kind of domino effect, putting
Mhm,
effort in, hoping that you get something back. And, when I do live streams like this, I try to mention, Corey's projects if they're live, or like Joe Ball, one of my artists, like talk about his comic Death, 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 try to promote him, Joe with Reaper Destroyer, just put some eyes on their work. And then, they'll sometimes retweet it, and, they'll have backers that want to back you too. So just trying to have that kind of community mindset, help people that are good folks, and sometimes that'll help yourself out as well, and
mhm.
kind of share each other's backers or followers, because a lot of people, they're waiting for campaigns to be fulfilled. They want more content, so you can be that one to, like, hey, I got something too, and vice versa. Just try to help everybody out and just get your name everywhere you can, and hope that when you share your art, that my main character or my antagonist will really stick with them to where they want to remember the project, or they want to back it. So, um, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like that's really the key is like you have to be a part of a community, right? And you have to give into that community before you can cash in, I guess, or
right.
however it is that you want to think about it, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Unless you came from the mainstream and you already have an established name, or you have a political podcast or something,
Hmm. Hmm.
those guys can, yeah, they could do a campaign and not even promote. I mean, they naturally have backers, but for folks like myself or Joe that are not household names, you gotta connect with other people, and yeah, I do think it's just really important to kind of have that community mindset, and it'll pay off, I think, long term. If I wouldn't have been in those live streams or promoted those folks, retweeted, I don't
Hmm.
I don't think I would have raised $500, to be quite honest, because I would have
Yeah.
had no followers.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah. So your inspirations, I see like you've got like quite a few things hanging out in the back there. You got
Mhm.
Batman poster, you got Watchmen.
Mhm.
I see 300.
Yep.
So what were like the comics that like really influenced you once you got around to getting them? Like,
Yeah, it was really, like I said, Marv Wolfman works. So the initial Deathstroke, Teen Titans, and then the original run of Doctor Fate as well.
Deathstroke, and
And
what was the I apologize. What was the artist name?
well, the writer was Marv Wolfman. So it was
Okay.
just his writing work and his character
Okay.
creations, because he created Deathstroke, he created all the Teen Titans characters. So um, really, really enjoyed his writing. And then the art that complemented it. But from there, it was really comic book films that really really inspired me, and yeah, movies like Sucker Punch and all of the Nolan movies. So really, Nolan and Snyder films really inspired me from a creative and writing side of things.
Yeah, I dig this guy's work. I don't know
Hmm.
who this is, but um, to be completely honest, I feel like I'm kind of an outsider when it comes to a lot of the comic stuff. I grew up with comics, but
Hmm.
then as I've gotten older, I kind of got away from a lot of the superhero stuff.
Hmm.
But I'm still a huge fan of the art. I think the
Hmm.
art is really it's usually pretty phenomenal. Stuff like this. I mean, that's really good.
Yeah, the way that character was designed was just in the costume is just so
Mhm.
unique and creative versus some of the other kind of characters out there that are just kind of bland and they seem like copies of one another. So I really like these original, you know, characters that you can tell there's a lot of thought and creativity put into them.
Yeah, he's not like an old character, right? Like he's kind of more of a modern character. He's not like a legacy character, is he?
Right. Yeah, I think he was created in the early 1980s.
Okay.
So, yeah. Same with Dr. Fate. I believe it was, you know, early 80s, maybe 70s. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. So like when we go back and we look at this art,
Mhm.
who was your artist? Let's scroll down here and let's look at them.
Yeah.
I want to make
So,
sure about them. This is your team right here.
yep.
Corey Barton is your main artist.
Yep, he did all of the main covers for the novels in the mini comic, as well as about 90% of the interior work. He does line work, inking, and the colors, so he does everything, which is not
Oh
very
wow.
common.
Hmm.
And then Skunk Artworks did the variant cover for the mini comic, which is a painted um, wraparound. Elliot Rodriguez, he did one of the prints and two of the interior pages. He's up and coming artist out of Peru.
Okay.
And then Joe Ball did that amazing black and white cover. That's the cover for the black and white Virgin comic. So
Okay. That's
yep,
cool,
and
man.
he did some sketch cards as well for the comic or the campaign. So
Yeah, I want to look at Corey's work. Let's share some of his stuff. Man, he's
yeah,
really good.
yeah, yeah.
He's really,
Think this piece, his brother did the line work and the inks, and then he did the colors. So they tag team on their specific comics. But Corey has his own comic in the works right now where he does everything, and then yeah, he did everything on most of my pages as well. So he's super talented. So
yeah, this guy's got not enough people looking at his stuff. Go follow this guy, Corey
yeah,
Barton.
he's very quiet and reserved
Mhm.
because he's just cranking out pages every day. But yeah, he's one of those dudes that should. I mean, he should be having tens of thousands of followers. I mean, just super talented.
Oh, yeah, I got to reach out to this guy and do
Hmm.
something with him. He's tagging Ghost in the Shell and Metal Gear for his comic page here. I can
Yep.
totally I can see the influence.
Yep.
Yeah, this stuff is really good. Some Berserk colors.
Yep.
Okay. So I guess he's taking some inks and he's coloring them. That's kind of a cool idea. I've never thought about doing that.
Hmm.
Oh wow. Yeah, he's really good with color.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's got the full skill set. That's interesting. I don't even
Yeah.
know how. I guess he must trace out the inks because I'm assuming he's doing this digitally.
Yeah. He does digital. Yep.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I gotta reach out to this guy. This guy's
Yeah.
good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's from that Kozar. That's what
Oh, that's what
that's
put
what
you
got me
on.
to
Yeah.
hire him. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when you see the amount of work it is that people put into these comics, it is super inspiring, and like you can see that he put that same amount of time into the stuff he did for you. I
Mhm.
mean, like let's go back and look at this inked page up here. This one is really cool. I love this page.
Yeah, that's
What
the
is
one that Joe Ball did right there.
Okay, okay. And
Yeah.
okay, so what exactly is going on here?
So this one is like the cover for the Virgin Black and White version of
Okay.
the comic. That's just all the art in black and white. But I basically told him, just I gave him some of the pages from Corey and just said just go nuts because he can do crazy black and white art and his detail is just insane. So
Mhm.
he's got all the major characters in there with some obviously Christian symbolism,
Mhm.
and it's a two-way cover. So if you flip it upside down, there's action in both ways.
Ah,
So like
okay.
here, right, it looks like he's kind of flying up, but if you turn it
Mhm.
around, it's like he's falling from a building trying to catch that guy. So,
Okay. That's cool.
and you can see, one of the other vigilantes here, it's upside down, but you flip it,
Mhm.
so he just did a bunch of sections in different directions, and yeah, just awesome work.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then that's one of Corey's just ink, just the black and white. So
Yeah. Yeah, he's you got a pretty damn good team on your
yeah.
hands. So are you so now that you guys have put this one together,
Mhm.
is the next task to go ahead and start putting another book together, or
That's
what's the idea now?
that's the long-term plan. Immediate future, I may produce some audiobooks just to try to kind of maximize the novel side of things and make sure I have every format possible for those. And then I'd like to do a full comic issue. So if I can, hopefully, maybe get this campaign up to 10,000 between the two campaigns, that would give me the funds needed to start the first comic issue and start a campaign for that. So I'd like to do that in the next year or so, ideally.
Okay.
So yep.
That's cool, man. Yeah, so what is it like now that you're like a published author, you're a published comic author? Do you feel like some sort of threshold has been passed to where now your creativity is like really coming in? I've noticed from my own experience, like whenever you have some sort of a ceiling that you feel like, oh man, can I do this? And then you hit
Mhm.
it and you exceed it, it's like all of a sudden just the creativity just pours in, you know?
From the visual side of things, yes. For the comics, just going through this process with Corey, and I designed all of the layouts for the pages, the panels, designed the characters, and then he ran with it and then gave me some advice and some improvements. So now I have that under my belt of creating some panels and two-page spreads, and so I feel really confident in being able to convert the novels into comic format. I just need to team up with another writer to make sure it's 100% correct, and to make sure that it's proper. But I'm really excited to see the rest of the story come to life visually, and once I fulfill this month and I get everything shipped out, and I have stock to just ship same day or next day, it's like I can actually sit down and start writing again. Because when you're doing a campaign, I mean it's a full time job outside of your full time job. I did all the thumbnail work, all of the just marketing
Mhm.
material I did in Photoshop. Just did a lot of myself kind of learning on that side of things and doing the interviews. So I'm really excited to actually sit down and start writing the next novel and developing the pages for the comic. So yeah,
That's cool,
it
man.
gave me a
Okay.
little kick in the ass to again start being creative again, because
Yeah,
I'm tired of all of my creativity going towards marketing and marketing alone. It's exhausting.
that's cool, man. So you got a YouTube channel and you've got a Twitter. Is that the best way people can follow you?
Yeah, pretty much Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. If you just look up BA Turner or BA Turner underscore VC, you can find me easily on all of them. I'm active on all of them. YouTube hasn't been real active just because I've been just doing interviews, but I'm hoping this weekend or next week to start doing weekly or maybe 2 videos a week, just talking about the writing process and the inspiration behind the story and the story itself. And I also want to start doing this, start interviewing folks that are creators and try to help grow the channel and get people's work out there and help them as well. So I'm hoping the next 6 months to really focus on building my YouTube channel and helping other folks, and at the same time try to keep getting this campaign in front of as many people as possible to again hopefully raise some more funds to go towards the next project. So
Cool, man. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm enjoying doing these podcasts. Like I had Joe
Mm,
Santong. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. I'm sorry.
yeah. Yes.
I'm bad at names. I've I've talked with so many people.
Oh yeah.
But his Reaper Destroyer comic, I thought it was really cool, and
Yeah.
it's really cool to be like getting into this community as somebody who is an artist and
Mm-hmm.
getting in the community and trying to like promote other people's work and seeing what people are doing. And that's really what my part of what this YouTube channel, if you're watching this, um, that's what it is that I'm trying to do on here is I'm trying to bring on other creative people that are doing creative stuff that I can help promote them in any way it is that I can. But it's just inspiring, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest with you. I mean, none of us can really look at the numbers and say that we're reaching huge crowds right now, but it's still like there's something going on in the independent comics community that I think
Mm-hmm.
is really inspiring, that the mainstream comic community is just lost. You
Right.
know, comics
Yep.
were always like for me. You look at something like Spawn. That was like my thing when I was
Mm-hmm.
growing up, and there's just like an aspirational element to comics that that is always that has always been a part of comics. You read the comics and you're like, oh my god, like two or three people made this.
Mm-hmm.
That's something it is that I could do, as opposed to like a film. Everybody wants to make a
Yeah.
film, but I mean, really, like you're talking millions of dollars and potentially hundreds of people
Mm-hmm.
just to make a movie.
Mm-hmm.
But anybody can write a novel. Anybody can put together a
Mm-hmm.
comic. Not
Yep.
everybody can get $5,000 funding for it, but uh, you know if you have an idea, you can put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like the Comicsgate community is kind of filling in that gap that was lost at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Mhm. Cool, man. Well, yeah, I'm gonna put all your social media stuff and the links to your Indiegogo. I'm gonna put all of that in the description below. And
Awesome.
thank you for coming on and showing us your comic. It's really cool, man.
Yeah,
And
thanks for having me.
yeah, and thanks for everybody that's watched this. And you guys take care.